there, Exotic Adrian Street. What is your memories? If you've got memories of Exotic Adrian Street, what is those memories? Now, this is one of our first posts that we did on Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. And this is when he was wrestling for Georgia Championship Wrestling Superstars. I think my most memorable thing of Adrian Street is when he kissed Terry Taylor on Mid-South Wrestling TV and won the Mid-South TV title. I think it really shocked the people in Louisiana. How about you, Jack?
Oh, man, I never saw a match of his that I didn't enjoy. He was always entertaining. I've always thought the world of him. Of course, my favorite memory of him was we did a 2-night show in Tuscaloosa several years back. Friday and a Saturday night, same arena, stayed at the same hotel, and I went down to grab a quick breakfast on Saturday morning, and we started at 7 o'clock, and at noon they said, guys, we got to make room for the lunch crowd, because we were still sitting there talking, hearing all those stories. And I miss Adrian. I love being around him.
But here is a picture. It's a small picture, but it's a picture of Gorgeous George Jr. and Ron West. And I say in the description that they're talking about the facts of life. Gorgeous George Jr. in his heyday was a very good wrestler. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm pretty sure they were probably going over a finish during this time. And now, who was allowed to be in the dressing room and take a picture? I don't know. At that point in time, but
yeah, back in those days, those pictures were pretty rare.
Yeah, so I'm not really for certain what it was all about. Here is another picture. I will throw that up again. This was from Continental Championship Wrestling. That is a very young Paul E. Dangerously, better known as Paul Heyman, Ron West, handcuffed at the Houston County Farm Center in Dothan, Alabama. Dad would be hit by one of his Paul's famous cell phones or whatever phone he had at the time. He got hit several times during that run in Continental Championship Wrestling. We did right here is Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert, Paul E. Dangerously, Ronnie West referee, and he was actually special guest referee. And I believe this could have been in Dothan as well at the Houston County Farm Center. Jack, did you ever wrestle at the Houston County Farm Center?
No, that was one of the few towns I never hit in the state of Alabama.
Very, very good place for professional wrestling at the time. Here is a picture of Dory Funk Jr. and Dory Funk Sr. You're talking about three people that was some of the greats in professional wrestling. You have to give it to Terry Funk and Dory Funk and Dory Funk Sr. I don't know that I ever watched Dory Funk Sr. wrestle. Did you, Jack?
I saw some tapes, and he was. Obviously those boys were trained by him because they worked just like he did.
Here, but here it is. Lou Thesz, 15-time world heavyweight. They say 15 times. Now, I don't know. Was he really a 15-time world heavyweight champion?
I have no idea.
They say that, but I don't know. He could have been, maybe he couldn't have been, but he did hold the title. This was 1979. His last match was against Crazy Lou Graham. Ron West is the referee, holding his hand up, and this will do Lou. Lou Thesz was a quality guy. He really was. Don't you think, Jack?
Yeah, I got to work for what's his name, Mario Savoli, I believe, yes. From out of New Jersey, I think. I got to do a show, TV tapings for him one time, and Lou and Les Thatcher were the commentators, and I got to spend a little time with Lou. And most of the guys were kind of scared of him, I guess. They didn't really approach him too much other than to say hi. But I hemmed him up in the corner and bent that ear. So he was a nice guy. I was always a fan anyway. The only picture that I have in my house that hangs up in my house is an autographed picture of Lou.
Yeah, Lou Thesz was, I did get that. I was very young. I was like 8 years old when he came through at that time, but he was very classy. He'd always come to you, and he'd always just say the same thing. Hello, I'm Lou Thesz. What's your name? It didn't matter who you were, and we were just little kids, but we were back there, so he made sure to come and say something to us. He was a class act.
And a little reference to that picture too. Crazy Luke Graham. I'm friends with his daughter Mandy, and she really didn't get to see a lot. She's a lot younger. You know, she was just a kid when he quit, so she didn't really get to hear a lot of the stories. So, you know, I whenever you post something or whatever, I usually tag her in that. You know, let her know a little bit more about her dad.
Here is pre-Hulk Hogan. He was not Hulk Hogan yet. He was Sterling Golden in 1979 for Southeastern Championship Wrestling. Ron West, the referee. Boy, he was not that great back then. Now, he could take a butt whipping pretty good. But other than that, he was not that good.
He and Austin Idol tagged up briefly in Georgia, and I thought that was probably one of the best looking tag teams I'd ever seen. That was, as far as ring stuff, it wasn't that great, but man, they came out. They were so muscled up, had the same matching gear, everything. It was impressive. I was disappointed when Terry left. I don't know whatever happened to him.
You know, we're going to talk about, you know, for some reason, people just, I don't know what, I don't know if it's because of things that's been said about him. I don't know why, but people seem to not like Hulk Hogan. I know he said some stuff he should have said.
Sure.
But as far as his career, I mean, he had to work to get to where he was at.
Well, I don't think that wrestling would be where it's at. Certainly WWE wouldn't be where it's at without him shouldering that burden for so many years. I mean, he was legitimately the biggest star of the 80s and you know, later on made a huge impact in the 90s too. So, you know, not many guys have that long a career and make a difference in the career.
Yeah, I've always respected him, and he was always nice to me. I didn't see him many times, but I seen him 2 or 3 times throughout the years. I mean, after 1979, after you went to work for Vince, but he was always nice to me.
Well, and for those people who say that he can't wrestle, you need to go pick up some of those YouTube channel posts from him in Japan. Man, he could, you know, he was as good as anybody that ever went over there.
Yeah, he really worked. He worked completely different than he worked here. You know, in the WWF, he did what he was told. That was the match they told him to have. That was his formula match, and that's the one they told him to have. But when he went to Japan, completely different.
Well, you know, and for whatever reason, you know, Ric Flair did the same thing. You know, back early in his career, he had a different match every night. But, you know, as he got a little bit older, and by the time he hit, WCW and WWE, you know, Flair's matches were always the same too, which they were still great matches. Yeah. But you saw the same stuff every time. So I never understood why Hogan got heat for it, but Rick didn't.
Yeah, I don't know how.
And neither one of them deserved heat.
No,
one of them deserved it.
I told him one time we was in Bristol, Virginia, and I told him, I said, you would think you would learn to run up on that second rope. After a while, you figure you're going to get slammed off of it. And you think you would learn after a while. That's not going to work out for you. I said, the guy sitting on the third row said, man, why does he do that every time? Jeez, you think he'd learn? Poor old Ric Flair. But everybody had formula matches. So everybody had their formula that worked, and it worked good territory days because you could go do that formula for 6 to 8 months and go to somewhere else and do that same formula, and 3 years later come right back to that territory. And people, a lot of times it was different wrestling fans, so people never remembered it. Here is a photograph that we did earlier on, and it says wrestler returns to the fairgrounds in Nashville, Tennessee. And as you see, Len Rossi, and the middle man is George Goulas. He's doing, I believe, evidently he was doing commentary, and Bearcat Brown. Bearcat Brown, one of my favorite wrestlers growing up. He had this leg thing that he would do that was spectacular, and I still remember it. I was just 4 years old, 5 years old, and I can just remember that. Now my most wrestling 2 and wrestling 1 is the one that I can remember vividly. That's the only thing I can remember about Bearcat. There's a picture. Tommy Rich and Rick Martel, Georgia Tag Team Champions. Jack, did you get to see these guys wrestle?
Yeah, I got to watch them on TV, and I never got to see them. Well, I never got to see Rick in person. Of course, I had a lot of experience with Tommy, but Rick Martel, man, you know, that guy, the way he looked, the way he got over with fans, and he could go.
Oh,
I mean, he's probably one of the better guys I saw back in that time, and was good up till the day he retired. Still looked better than most of the guys in the locker room.
You know, he got fired 3 times in Georgia. 3 times. You know, but I don't know why. I think maybe he wanted more money. I'm not for sure, but I know he got fired in the early parts. You know, he started wrestling in the early 70s. And he got fired that time. He came back for a little stint, got fired again, and he got fired this time when he was there as well. So 3 times he was fired. You know, I don't know. I don't think he got along with Jim Barnett. I'm just thinking he just didn't get along with him for whatever
Apparently
reason.
not. I believe he's in real estate now or something. I saw a picture. It's been a few months back, but you know, he's closing in on 70 if he's not there now, and he still looks great.
You know, I could be wrong. He could have been 2 times, but I'm pretty sure I read 3 times, and I think he was the one that was talking about it. So I'm not saying anything that he hadn't talked about. On a shoot interview. Southeastern Championship Wrestling, a very young Ron Fuller, Robert Fuller, and Bullet Bob Armstrong, and this is one of the programs that they had back in the day. And here is a picture of Lee Majors. And that man is Bigfoot, but that is Andre the Giant.
Yep. I remember that episode.
It was called The Secret of Bigfoot, which aired on February 1st, 1976. And Andre did not finish it. I think it was a 2-parter, and he didn't finish it. The guy from maybe Gold Member, he actually finished it. Andre had some other stuff he had to do, so he did not get to finish it. But Andre the Giant, I remember watching this show. I remember watching it, and Dad telling us all about it because Andre had told him all about it. Lee Majors was the only person who could drink as much as Andre the Giant.
I saw Lee Majors last year, and he saw me at my wrestling table at this convention thing, and he said, "You know Andre?" And I lied and said, "Yeah," and he was happy. That was it.
Dad said that Andre said that was the only man that ever could drink as much as he could. He could drink as much. Now that is saying a lot.
That's a lot.
Maybe he was really the $6 million man.
Could have. Well, he had those hollow legs, I guess. So.
Yeah, so maybe he could. Mandy said, "Hi, Jack Lord."
There she is, Crazy Luke Graham's daughter.
Crazy Luke Graham. I'll tell you a story, Mandy, about your dad. We were doing he came in and he was a big star for Nick Goulas. For Nick Goulas Wrestling, he was a huge star. And Georgia Championship Wrestling took it over in 1980, somewhere around 1980. And Dad went to Nick Goulas one time. He said, "Listen," well, he went to Jim Barnett and said, "I want to do a show for Nick Goulas, and I want to bring in Luke Graham." Luke Graham he was wrestling for Georgia Championship Wrestling anyway. So that night they do an elimination match, and your dad's in the match. Well, he had got eliminated by somebody cheated him out of it. And so at the end of the match, there's 3 guys just pounding on Tommy Rich. I mean, they were just pounding on him. And I can't remember what 3 guys it was, but I remember Crazy Luke Graham on the stage, and he was walking going one way, looking at the ring, going one way, looking at the steps. The people were going crazy. I mean, these people were going crazy. And he finally would go like he's going down the steps, and he'd come back up, and the people, they were with it. And when he finally hit them steps and came out there and he hit those people. And wrestling fans in the South, they whoosh. Every time somebody hits, it's a whoosh. That building was exploding with whooshes, and then people were standing for Crazy Luke Graham. And you know what? Georgia Championship Wrestling never returned the match with Crazy Luke Graham on the main event. And we did not understand why they didn't do that. They had the opportunity to really draw great money with Luke Graham and Tommy Rich. And it was during the time he was feuding with Buzz Sawyer. So Buzz Sawyer was one of the people. Chick Donovan might have been the other one. And Pat Rose might have been the other guy in the ring. I can't remember, but Tojo Yamamoto was there that night. George Goulas, I think George got eliminated first. I'm not for sure. I think he didn't get eliminated first. So,